As I was 14 years old, actually the age of my daughter, and I was left literally at boarding school in Switzerland, a very fancy boarding school.
Early career momentum. Shirley MacLaine's rise in the entertainment industry began with an unusual combination of timing, talent, and opportunity. Born to parents who valued creativity, she grew up in an environment that encouraged performance. Her career accelerated quickly after she stepped into a Broadway role as an understudy, catching the attention of film producers who were impressed by her natural presence. Within a short time, she transitioned into major Hollywood productions and became known for her expressive acting style and quick wit during interviews. From a reporter's standpoint, what stands out is how fast her identity became tied to her work. The public saw a young woman moving at full speed, eager to break boundaries, and determined not to let anything slow her progress. That determination shaped not only her career, but also her personal choices. The momentum she built in her 20s placed her in constant motion, surrounded by demanding schedules and creative expectations. As her fame grew, the distance between her public achievements and private responsibilities also widened, setting the stage for future misunderstandings within her family. Observers at the time often noted her drive, but few realized how deeply this ambition would influence her relationship with her daughter later in life. A childhood spent across the ocean. From a news perspective, Sachi Parker's early childhood was defined by geography as much as family dynamics. While MacLaine worked steadily in Hollywood, Sachi was primarily raised in Japan with her father, Steve Parker. Air travel between the two countries was far less common at that time, making long-distance parenting especially challenging. Those who followed MacLaine's career knew she was frequently on film sets or traveling for professional commitments, which left limited room for consistent interaction with her young daughter. Reports from Sachi's later recollections indicate that she often felt like a visitor during her mother's brief stays, describing these reunions as warm at first but increasingly formal as hours passed. The separation wasn't framed as deliberate neglect, but rather a consequence of adults pursuing separate paths while trying to maintain a family link across thousands of miles. Journalists covering MacLaine's career during those years often referenced her unconventional marriage arrangement, but its impact on her daughter's emotional landscape wasn't widely discussed until much later. This early distance became the foundation for Sachi's interpretation of her childhood and influenced the narrative she eventually shared with the public. Life inside a highly social household. During her years in Japan, Sachi lived in a home known for constant activity and frequent social gatherings. Her father maintained strong ties with cultural and business circles, hosting events that brought in a wide variety of guests. To outside observers, the environment appeared vibrant and sophisticated. However, Sachi later described feeling out of place within that atmosphere, noting that expectations placed on her often revolved around being polite and presentable, rather than being emotionally supported. As reporters have noted, homes filled with visitors can sometimes give the impression of stability and community, even when the internal structure may be strained. Much of the household routine was oriented around her father's professional and personal interests, which sometimes left Sachi navigating her experiences independently. At the same time, her mother's fame added another layer of distance, as many people who encountered her saw her primarily through the lens of being MacLaine's daughter rather than as an individual. This dynamic contributed to a childhood shaped more by public perception than private connection, a theme that would later appear repeatedly in interviews and written accounts. Visits that felt both warm and fleeting. When Shirley MacLaine visited Japan, the meetings between mother and daughter were described as affectionate but brief. Initial moments were often filled with excitement, a sense of reunion, and an eagerness to reconnect. Yet, as Sachi later shared, the emotional closeness tended to fade as the hours passed, replaced by a feeling that her mother's attention was shifting back toward work responsibilities and upcoming projects. For news reporters examining the timeline, these visits appeared to follow a predictable pattern: strong beginnings, quiet middles, and quick departures. Neither side expressed open conflict. Instead, the relationship seemed defined by missed opportunities and unspoken questions. Air travel and demanding schedules played a significant role, but so did differing expectations about what family time should look like. Observers at the time often viewed MacLaine as a trailblazing performer with a full plate, while her daughter experienced the same reality from a very different angle. The contrast between public admiration and private uncertainty eventually became one of the central elements of their story, highlighting how distance within a family can form gradually and quietly, even when affection still exists. A holiday that became a turning point. Among the events Sachi later discussed, one particular holiday season became a key moment in understanding the emotional divide between her and her parents. As a teenager attending school in Switzerland, she expected to join her family during the break. When plans did not unfold as anticipated, she found herself unsure of where to go or whom to contact. According to her account, she eventually stayed with a classmate's family until she was able to reach her parents. Reports from that period suggest that her mother was working on a production abroad, while her father was traveling separately. When the family finally reconnected, the conversation reportedly felt routine rather than urgent, and no clear explanation was provided. From a reporter's viewpoint, this incident illustrates how logistical challenges and communication gaps within international households can create lasting impressions. While there was no indication of intentional disregard, the lack of coordinated planning contributed to Sachi's belief that she needed to rely on herself more than anyone else. This experience became a symbolic moment for her, shaping her understanding of where she fit within her parents' busy lives. Returning to the U.S. with hope for connection. In her early adulthood, Sachi returned to the United States with the intention of reconnecting with her mother and building her own path. Hollywood, however, had changed significantly since her childhood, and she soon discovered that entering the industry carried additional pressure due to her mother's reputation. Casting directors often associated her identity with MacLaine, which created expectations that were challenging to meet. From a journalistic standpoint, her efforts were marked by persistence rather than immediate success. She worked various jobs to support herself, ranging from service positions to seasonal roles, showing a willingness to adapt. Reports indicate that she sought emotional closeness with her mother during this period, hoping that physical proximity would make relationship building easier. Yet the two often approached conversations from different angles, particularly when it came to discussing personal topics. Professional demands, differing viewpoints, and the weight of past misunderstandings made it difficult for the bond to strengthen. The public, largely unaware of these private struggles, continued to view MacLaine through the lens of her established career, leaving Sachi to navigate her experience quietly. Public recognition that complicated private feelings. The moment Shirley MacLaine won the Academy Award for Terms of Endearment became a celebrated milestone in her career. The role, centered on a layered relationship between a mother and daughter, earned widespread praise for its emotional sincerity. News outlets at the time described the performance as one of the highlights of her professional life. For Sachi, observing this moment from the outside created a complex mixture of admiration and introspection. According to her later comments, she felt proud of her mother's achievement, yet the thematic parallels of the film brought up unresolved questions about their own relationship. Reporters reviewing the situation noted that this type of contrast is not uncommon in families where public recognition does not always align with private experience. The celebration of MacLaine's portrayal added another layer to the already delicate connection between the two. It highlighted how public success can sometimes magnify private distance, even when both individuals wish the relationship were easier to navigate. a memoir meant to clarify long-standing feelings. When Sachi published her memoir, it drew immediate attention due to the prominence of her mother and the candid nature of the personal stories included. From a journalistic perspective, the book presented her attempt to process decades of questions and mixed emotions. She framed the memoir not as an accusation, but as a reflection on her experiences growing up in unique circumstances. Reactions from readers and critics varied widely. Some viewed her writing as heartfelt and sincere, while others questioned whether certain family details should have been shared publicly. MacLaine responded by disputing significant portions of the book, emphasizing her own understanding of their family's history. The differing viewpoints became a topic of discussion in entertainment reporting, underscoring how two people can remember the same events in entirely different ways. What remained clear was that the memoir served as an outlet for Sachi to articulate feelings she had carried for many years, showing how her perspective had been shaped by distance, communication challenges, and the complexities of being connected to someone with a demanding public career. Acceptance without full reconciliation. In recent years, both women have continued to lead separate lives while maintaining occasional contact. Shirley MacLaine has remained active in writing and personal exploration, frequently discussing her interest in spiritual topics. Those who interview her often describe her as confident, introspective, and committed to her own worldview. Meanwhile, Sachi has focused on raising her family and building a life that emphasizes presence and stability. She has spoken about finding comfort in parenting, describing it as a way to provide the consistency she once longed for. Reporters observing their situation note that there is no open dispute between them, but also no full resolution of past misunderstandings. Instead, their relationship appears to exist in a middle ground, a place where affection remains, but deeper conversations are unlikely. This form of acceptance is common in families where communication styles differ and past experiences remain sensitive. Each woman seems to have reached an understanding of what the other can realistically offer, choosing to appreciate the connection they have rather than seeking a version that no longer feels achievable. A story of two lives moving in different directions. The relationship between Shirley MacLaine and her daughter illustrates how public achievement and private life can diverge in meaningful ways. For reporters following their story, the focus is not on assigning fault, but on understanding how circumstances, personalities, and career pressures shape their journey. MacLaine's dedication to her craft positioned her as one of the most recognizable performers of her generation, while Sachi's path led her toward creating a quieter, more grounded environment for her own family. Their experiences demonstrate how two people can care for each other yet still struggle to communicate in a way that feels fulfilling. Viewers and readers often approach their story with strong opinions, but the truth appears to lie somewhere between differing memories and the natural distance that forms when lives evolve separately. Today, their narrative serves as a reminder that family relationships can be complex, influenced by time, priorities, and individual perspectives. Rather than focusing on blame, their story encourages a broader reflection on how people adapt, grow, and find peace even when full understanding remains just out of reach.